If you want to pump your body and expand your mind, there's only one place to go. Mind Pump. Mind Pump with your hosts, Sal DiStefano, Adam Schaefer, and Justin Andrews.
In this extra awesome episode of the Mind Pump, for 45 minutes, the first 45 minutes, we do our introductory conversation. We don't talk a whole lot about fitness, but here's what we covered in that part. I start out by talking about macadamia nut milk.
We got nutty, huh, Sal?
Oh, the dad jokes are hitting hard.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so macadamia nut milk, delicious, game changer. I got mine from Thrive Market, one of the largest online retailers of non-GMO and organic products, including cleaning products, including pet products, and, of course, food. If you go to thrivemarket.com/mindpump, we got you a hookup. We're going to get you a month free membership, and we'll get you 25% off your first order. Then we talked about a little current events. We talked about what happened with Jussie Smollett. That's the guy that hired people to beat him up and then pretend like it was a hate crime.
Shame on you.
Crazy. I brought up the Defense Communications Board and how the president apparently has the power to control all electronic communication. I did not know this. It's been around for a long time, kind of scary.
Yeah.
Adam brought up a show on Prime called The Man in the High Tower. Sounds like a cool show. And then I talk about the Ted Bundy series on Netflix. So you're fully freaked out by that point.
Yeah. We love murderers.
Then we talked about the effect of awareness and perceptions on behavior. I mentioned how Justin's beard is looking extra sexy.
I am a man.
He had to fight Adam off earlier this morning. And we complimented Justin on his new Vuori chino pants. Yeah. They look like they sound. They kind of look like Dickies, but they're comfortable and flexible and stretchy. And we like Vuori. Great clothing company.
So many compliments about me. I didn't know how to take it.
If you go to Vuori Clothing, VUORI, clothing.com/mindpump, we got you a fat 25% off your first order. Then Adam talks about his 20-year high school reunion. Now you do the math, you can see how old he actually is. Pretty cool. And then that was it for the intro. Then we get into the fitness part of this episode. So here's the first fitness question. It was, look, why do we talk bad about CrossFit when all of us haven't really tried it for a long time? So I know you guys, some of you are sick of us talking about CrossFit.
Why won't you drink our Kool-Aid, man?
Apparently aren't sick of us talking about it. So we talk about CrossFit and why we don't like their programming, but we give our good reasons. And yeah, we're right. The next question, is there a practical reason why powerlifters tend to be higher in body fat? So what are the benefits of being higher in body fat for powerlifters? And then, of course, in that part of the episode, we get into a discussion about this new trend of females getting into powerlifting, which we think is awesome. Good part of the episode. Next question. This person spends a lot of time sitting down. What are some things they can do to minimize the potential negative effects that come from just sitting on your butt all day long? And the final question. This is for the trainers out there. How do you build confidence in yourself as a trainer besides just getting more experience? So we give some good teachings in that part of the episode. Also, this month, MAPS Performance, our functional athletic-based workout program. In other words, you're going to do all kinds of different movements, different exercises. You're going to focus on maximal strength. You're going to focus on agility. You're going to focus even on endurance. And you're going to develop a body that looks like it could do all of those things. So think about that for a second. Strong, agile, fast, endurance. What does that look like naked? Looks pretty damn good. Anyway, that's what MAPS Performance is designed for. And it's 50% off this month. Just go onto the site, mapsfitnessproducts.com, and make sure you use the code GREEN50, GREEN 50 for the 50% off. And by the way, MAPS Performance has been updated. There's a new version on there right now. If you already have MAPS Performance, you're updated automatically. But go check it out. It's a nice-looking revamp. Good job, Justin. He set that all up.
Yeah.
Also on that site, mapsfitnessproducts.com, you can learn about our other MAPS programs and workouts designed for different goals and different individuals. Bro, macadamia nut milk, game changer.
Okay, so I haven't used mine yet. It's in the refrigerator. Doug ordered it from Thrive the last time we did it. He got mine, so I haven't used it yet.
Damien it up, huh?
Macadamia nut milk is a game changer. So I drank all the one that Doug got us from Thrive Market, which I don't remember what the price was because I got.
He said it was like $1 more than like almond milk and stuff.
It's $1 less than Whole Foods.
That's it, and so I went to Sprouts.
So is it like creamier? Like, why is it better?
It's mild, and the mouthfeel is really, really good. Which, and I don't know why you do your eyebrows like that. Made me feel weird.
I mean,
you're
really selling me on the mouthfeel.
Yeah.
You're like,
people don't realize this.
Okay, dude.
But mouthfeel is a huge component in palatability.
It's why Nitro Brew coffee is so amazing.
It's the mouthfeel.
Yeah. I know.
It's the way it feels inside your mouth.
It's not
That's
about
just
the science.
Like, tell me that doesn't sound weird, though. Like, you saying that out loud.
It wasn't weird, but then when you did your eyebrows, as I'm saying,
it made you feel weird.
But anyway,
I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah, got that like creamy texture.
Yeah, see, I don't like to say creamy. That's worse. But I got it. And what I do post workout is I pour about a cup and a half or 2 cups in like a little blender. I add this. I don't recommend. This is do at your own risk. I'll put 4 to 6 raw egg yolks for the cholesterol. Then I'll add a little bit of protein powder for flavor. Blend it up. It's the best post-workout. It's got the proteins. It's got the cholesterol for the repair. Now, I don't recommend raw eggs because of salmonella risk. However, if you do your research, you'll find that good, well-sourced eggs have something like 1 out of 20,000 of them might have salmonella. So it's actually quite low risk. But anyway, that's what I do, and it's fucking delicious. And then here's the other thing. When you go on Thrive, I went on Thrive Market to buy the macadamia nut milk because it's so much cheaper there than it is at Sprouts. They also have this like free gift thing you could do on Thrive. So I was asking Doug about this, where you can qualify to get like free products and free gifts by buying groceries.
So you get like a rewards sort of points for the amount of purchases you make, or
you get things to try out basically, so you can get different products. In fact, they'll send you an email.
They probably target you with things that are like if you
you're
buy
most likely to
if you buy this and this, you're most likely
right. So, for example, I get emails from Thrive Market, and they will send out to me like today's free gift is this if you order. And I've gotten some pretty cool things, like some hot cocoa mix and things like that. So that's definitely worthwhile. And then one more thing I think you ought to mention about Thrive Market is that you can actually divert some of your savings over to people in need.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome they do that.
I'll tell you something else you should mention about Thrive Market, that I think this is the last commercial of their contract. We've been with them for almost 10 years. And if you don't,
longer than Mind Pump.
Yeah. If you don't have,
when the internet came out, I was talking about them.
if you don't have, how long did you guys think I said? I said 2 years.
You said 10 years.
No, I said 2. You guys
said 10.
We all heard.
We'll replay it.
So here's what we'll do. If you're listening to the podcast, hit pause, rewind.
2.
If he said 10, just DM Adam. Let him know
Or
that
we're just the assholes. Either way.
No, you guys are the assholes. I for sure said 2 because you'll sound like it after you hear the episode. So it's okay though. We for 2 years.
The confidence.
Yeah. Well, when you say something right and when you say something wrong.
I also know there's a disconnect sometimes between the brain and the mouth. And the ears.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Anyway, what were you trying to say?
2 years.
Is that we have had a contract with them for 2 years now, and this is the final commercial that we have with them, which means that we may not have this offer going forward if we do not renew. So that's something that our audience, if you've been kind of on the fence of trying Thrive Market out, you're not sure.
Yeah, you get a free month membership, 25% off your first order.
Right. So take advantage of that for sure, because I'm not sure if that's something that we will be going for.
But
I keep restocking my Dr. Bronner's soaps and all that, dude. I live off that stuff.
Their soaps?
Yeah.
I like their, they also have something called Sal's Suds, which immediately drew me in because the name I thought was brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, Sal's Suds.
The name is brilliant.
But it's like a cleaning product for your kitchen, and it's natural, and it works really well.
Yeah, I just like I don't know, just knowing that I've cleared a lot of, chemicals, like I've at least lowered the exposure on some level.
Yeah. So I want to ask you guys about what's the deal. Have you guys been reading about this? Was it the Empire actor?
Oh, Jesse Smollett.
Dude,
Yeah.
fucking blowing up.
Well, you know what was funny? I actually was just watching Ben Shapiro respond to this a couple days ago, and shame on the left for jumping all over this shit right away, because you've seen it. There was a lot of big name politicians that right away got as soon as this came out, were quick to make a big deal about it, and now it's kind of
to their defense.
That would have been great, campaign wise for them to be like, yeah, like I see what's happening.
Well, to their defense, there's a few things that are happening. First off, the right has done that as well. So I think it's the media, and my personal opinion is that the media, especially mainstream media, is they're clawing at everything they possibly can because they're dying, and they're losing viewers, they're losing readers at a very, very rapid rate. And so what they're trying to do is be the first ones to come out with enraging news. And so nobody's really fact checking or waiting to see what the truth is, and they're all jumping on it. Politicians have always 100%. Done that. Politicians are opportunists. That's just what they do. They look at an opportunity, they jump on it. Now, it just so happens that the left has done this now a couple times, one after another, because before this, there were those kids from the Catholic school that were getting yelled at by the black Israelites, and they were getting hammered. Then a Native American drummer went up and drummed in that kid's face, and the media jumped on it and said that the kids were being racist or whatever. And then a whole video came out to show that they were not being that way. That made them look terrible. Now we got this case where this dude said, hey, I got attacked because I'm gay and black, and he fucking planned it.
And it was fabricated.
Not only he paid for the whole thing.
The whole thing was orchestrated.
Yeah, and then the other thing too that this is pointing out is that we're at a time now where being a victim is empowering. So people want people to know how victimized they are. It's like this empowering thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You guys read about what his motives, right? Why he said he did this. Or what they're saying?
No, I was just assuming.
I thought he was still denying
Trump down on some level.
Well, so this is what the speculation is. Apparently he got this like anti-gay letter, and he complained to his bosses, and he didn't think that there was a strong enough reaction. So he planned this whole deal to get more of a reaction. But then obviously this
got it.
Terrible.
So okay, and so he hired let me get this story straight. Like, so he hired some people to
beat him up.
Like they actually like physically harmed him.
Yep.
And so the guys that he hired were
Africans from Africa. Yeah. I guess one of them was a bodyguard that worked. He kind of knew them or whatever. But he paid these guys to beat him up, and then afterwards he said that they yelled, my attackers yelled racist things,
homophobic things,
MAGA. They had MAGA hats on, so he was blaming trying to identify them as like these right wing.
Now I think it's comical because what a shitty idea gone bad here, right? Like, you pay somebody, so you're out the money, you got the ass whooping, and you didn't get the outcome that you wanted from all this. Like,
oh yeah,
that really
none of your desired results out of this whole process.
That really, it just completely backfired.
And it's backfiring on the politicians who jumped on it, and because they jumped on it right away, and they're like insinuating that this is the result of Trump's politics, right?
Well, it's so,
now they look bad, and all it does is feed into his whole like fake news liberal,
and it
bias.
Devalues like real problems out there of like people like experiencing real like racist, homophobic like beatings and things like and you're like just putting it out there, and it's completely fake.
It's terrible. I think it's terrible, but I'm hoping that and I don't think they're going to learn this lesson. But I want the media to slow down a little bit so that they don't jump all over, because this completely devalues
your sources.
Yeah, completely.
Let's get back to that.
Yeah, and what's going to end up happening is it's just when they do polls on people's trust of the media, it's like at all-time lows. All-time lows. People just don't trust or believe what they have to say, so it's an interesting time.
I think it's like you said, like I really do feel this sense of a dying animal, like the media that we've experienced forever and ever, like they really only have one card left in their sleeve to get attention, and it's to be as extreme and shockworthy and polarizing as possible to get your attention. Otherwise, like we're all elsewhere, like we're listening to rational people on podcasts, or like like internet streaming, like TV shows we actually want to watch that aren't like all super biased.
Yeah,
So-
and social media encourages some of this behavior a little bit because statistically speaking, people are far more likely to share absurd article titles that strengthen their own political belief. So the crazier and the worse it is, the more likely they are to share it.
Yeah.
Versus like feel good type stuff. People are far less likely to share that kind of stuff. So it actually amplifies the problem even more.
Now, is he getting in trouble for any of this other than the backlash that he's feeling from?
Oh, dude, he's gonna get he's gonna get a lot of trouble.
To. Yeah, you got to get in trouble for this kind of shit.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, I don't know if illegal trouble. I don't know about that, but this has got to ruin his career.
Yeah.
I mean, if you if you literally paid people to beat you up so you could make up a story about that you were a victim of something, it would piss off everybody. It would piss off people on the right who are like, screw you for trying to blame, us for, something that you totally fabricated. And I think it would hurt people who've actually been victims of stuff like this.
That's where I find the biggest harm in the whole thing.
Yeah, because it turns into the boy that cried wolf, it fucks everybody else, right?
100%.
It's terrible.
I'd be pissed off about somebody who really got, beat up.
Yeah, and speaking of media, so I read this article the other day. I forgot who sent it. I want to say it was Enzo that sent this article. The kid's been doing a good job with some of these articles that he's been sending. But I didn't know this. Actually, I kind of did know this, but I know the details of it. So did you guys know that in a state of emergency that the president has the unilateral power to control all, like 100% of all electronic communications?
Wow.
How?
Well, so this happened
Is that like that emergency, like you get that buzz that happens every now and then when like a flash flood or something happens, like they have access to your phones like that?
Well, it was right around, I think it was 1941 or that this happened. And they, Roosevelt directed the government to be able to do this, and so they had created. There was something called the Defense Communications Board, and this was created to coordinate all communications in case of war or other national emergencies. And the FCC and the DCB, which is I just mentioned, the Defense Communication Board, they're empowered by something that was created in 1934 called the Communications Act, which expressly gave the president full control over electronic transmissions under these circumstances. Now, here's the problem. The problem is that this is a power given to the president under threat of war or a state of public peril or disaster or other national emergency. Now, here's the problem with stuff like that is we just saw Trump declare a state of national emergency to build the wall.
Right.
They pretty much can do that like whenever they want. And then it's later on that we might fight it.
Don't tell me he doesn't know all these loopholes.
Yeah.
It's just like he's just waiting on those for an opportunity to use it.
Yeah, so it's a little bit interesting, right? Like we give them the ability to discern, oh, this is an emergency, control everything, all electronics, all whatever. I thought that was fascinating.
Do you know what show I just started watching? I think you mentioned this on the podcast a long time ago, and I just
Person of interest?
No, the men in the high tower.
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
So it's this this dystopian world that when World War II happened, that the outcome was different, right? And so the United States is no longer the United States. It's half Japan and it's half. And it's half Nazi, and and then there's like a neutral ground in the middle where it's neither. And so it's like what the world would have been like had the World War II when the outcome was different, and then that's what happened. It's actually really interesting.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So you see this socialist and communist, the worlds living right next to each other on the same continent, and what that's like, and then the people that are trying to escape and be free and all that. It's very well written. It's on Amazon Prime, and I think it's on season 2 or 3, and I just found it.
It's called Men
in High Tower. Maybe Doug can look it up. It's like the
Man in the High Tower.
There you go. Thank you. The Man in the High Tower. So it's I'm already like, I don't know. I want to say I'm like 6 or 7 episodes into it, and it's got me hooked.
Yeah, that's
now.
a trippy concept.
Right. So I think what happened is I think somebody said, "Oh, you should watch it," And it's definitely one of those shows that if you don't read the backstory, you're kind of lost. Like, I come right into it and I was like hella confused.
What's going on?
Yeah, like what the fuck? And it was like, nah, not for me. But then when I read the backstory on the idea of like how they wrote it, I was like, oh, that's actually really interesting. Like now I get what's going on. So I think when I went and watched it after I read about it, it made it way more entertaining to watch it, and now I'm really into it. So
you guys have you guys been watching the Ted Bundy files on Netflix?
No,
I watched the first two.
Dude, I did not know. So I'm not done with it yet, and so the obviously for people who aren't familiar, there was an investigative journalist who had access to Ted Bundy after he got caught and everything, and charged, and he got Ted Bundy to talk about all the murders and what happened, and the way he did it is by getting Ted Bundy to talk about it in the third person. So he, after like weeks of meeting with Ted Bundy didn't want to talk about the murders or whatever, and so finally he said, well, and he kind of played
hypothetical.
Well, he played to Ted Bundy's weakness, which he was an extreme narcissist. He was a terrible, terrible narcissist, which a lot of these sociopaths are. They are just evil and terrible, but they want people to know how great they are, and they think that they're super awesome.
Right.
And so he said to him, he says, Ted, he goes, you're a very intelligent person. You're very versed in psychology. You've studied psychology. What do you think, if somebody did these things, could you explain what you think the psychology behind it all would be? And Ted just goes right into talking about it all, basically telling what happened, but under the guise of it being, this is what I think, that they went through or whatever.
If you are liking that, you'll really like Mindhunter. You need to watch Mindhunter.
Yeah, you've told me.
Yeah,
you told me.
Yeah, that's really good. I gotta finish.
Yeah, same thing with Jeffrey Dahmer too. Like I watched a whole series back, with that, and they actually had a reporter interview him specifically, and he was very open and honest about each one of his murders and like why he was compelled to do it the way he did it.
Think about how crazy this is. I did not know this part right here. So I knew Ted Bundy was a serial killer. Knew that part already. Did not know this. He gets caught, escapes, kills more people, gets caught again, escapes again, kills more people.
Wow.
Then they catch him again.
Yeah.
That's how fucking crazy. He escaped twice, and both times after escaping, couldn't control the urge and had to murder more people. One time, I think it was the second time he escaped, he goes to a sorority with a fucking tree branch, murders 4 girls.
With a branch.
And then gets caught doing something else, and it's insane. I did not know he escaped twice and killed more people. And it feels like there were have there been serial killers a lot since then, or was that a phenomena back then?
It was kind of because he was part of the group that started that. Like the serial
in the 70s, there was shit ton.
Serial killer no one knew what a serial killer was before that. They were just unsolved. Unsolved murders.
There was Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy. There was who's that guy that was a clown? That was a child's clown in the
John Wayne Gacy.
Gacy was another guy.
Yeah.
There was the Zodiac killer back then.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't know what they were before, and then they started. And that's so Mindhunter gets into kind of like that, like the evolution of the serial killer, like what it was before, who was the first people to actually say, hey, there's a possibility that all these unsolved murders that we don't know about actually are all connected. Yeah. And when they piece that together, and the scary part about it, or what was really scary, especially probably back then, was the main way we caught murderers in the past was the connection that they had with the people.
It's these are random.
Right. I think 80 or 90 is a super high percentage of murders are somebody very closely related to that person, right?
And there's a motive.
You're right, and there's a motive, where these serial killings have nothing to do with that. It's all about the narcissistic person trying to fill this void. And so they go and they strategically murder random people that have no connection. And it's like, wow, imagine that time of being a cop and these murders are happening, and then trying to figure that all out.
So here's part of the series that really blew my mind. As I'm watching, there was one of the main investigators, the guy, I think it was the first guy that charged Ted Bundy after they caught him after the second time he escaped, and they had enough evidence to go after him for 2 of the murders, and then there was a third one that had bite marks, so they're going to do a dental thing on his teeth. So he tells Ted, he says, we have enough evidence now, because at this point Ted's like, I'm not going to, no one's, I'm innocent, this is a waste of time or whatever. So this guy goes to him and says, look, we have evidence now to go after you for 2 of these murders. And this will illustrate just how fucking narcissistic and crazy this man is. He says, I didn't do it, but when you find the man who did this, who you think that I did, when you find that man, you're also going to find that he killed women in the 3 digits, and he did it in 6 different states. Like, he's trying to brag.
Yeah.
He was trying to brag, but also not brag. He wants him to know, like, I didn't just kill 2, I killed a fucking whole bunch.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys, crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, that mindset. And they leave little traces because they do want they want credit for it, and they have tokens and things that, they'll leave at crime scenes just so they can, like, leave their marker, so to speak.
He went down as the biggest, right? Like, what was his total?
Oh, I don't know.
That's
I don't know
crazy.
if he was the biggest.
I think he was.
Was he?
I think so. Yeah.
I thought it was there was someone strangler, the green something strangler. We should find out. But so imagine this too. Imagine the fear where this has never happened in my lifetime, where you're looking at the news and you're like, oh, serial killer on the loose in San Jose, just killed 4 women, is on the loose, is just on a killing spree right now. So everybody watch out.
Lock your doors.
That's a weird. Could you imagine that?
I know.
Well, my mom was like a kid, right? When the Zodiac killer, or she was young, right? When the Zodiac killer, she said that was a really scary time.
Yeah.
They were telling you stay indoors and stuff like that, like, because they didn't know.
They didn't want women walking, like, when it was dark out and everything. Yeah.
And imagine this. You hear in the news, oh, Ted Bundy just escaped from jail. Please, everybody be careful. Then the next day, he killed 4 girls in a dorm. Like, oh, shit.
Right. Yeah.
This is insane. It's crazy. But you know what this reminds me of is, because I think what ends up happening, I read this article on the psychology of some of this shit. And in this article, they said, the more these things happen, the more likely they are to happen again.
Right.
Because when you have these crazy sociopathic, narcissists, they see how much attention that someone got, like Ted Bundy, and then that triggers them to go like mass shooters or whatever. My fear with some of these series that are going apeshit on Netflix is it's going to trigger.
Yeah, and they've been doing. I mean, all of them. Like, they even had, like, Ted Kaczynski. Like, that was a great.
That was
series.
a really good one.
Really good. Like, because think about, like, to your point of, like, well, now it's so random. Like, how the hell? Like, there's no way you could, like, tie all these things together to, like, pinpoint who has a motive to actually kill that person. When it's that random.
Right.
But finding all these little things, like, I think they actually uncovered that one based off of, like, the letters that they were receiving, and then they had, like, a linguist come in there and like find patterns that they could, like, attribute to, like, somebody. But it's just crazy, like, and it's fascinating more from the detective's perspective of, like, trying to put it all together. But yeah, there's that worry I have too, that this is just, like, glorifying.
Well, this is the argument that I always make when people make this argument of when we have any topics of awareness, like, oh, I think it's good that we talk about this to bring awareness to this. And it's like, I don't know if I can get down with that all the time. Like, there's a lot of things that happen in this country that I think a lot of people are fully aware of, and sometimes I think all the efforts to try and quote unquote bring awareness to it bring so much awareness to it that it attracts more of it.
Especially the crazy shit, like the school shooters and stuff like that. Like, I feel like that could trigger some crazy fucker to think, oh, this is a great way to get attention.
I even think it in some of the things that I think are sensitive to talk about, like racism and sexism and things like that people are like, it's still going on and we need to bring awareness to it. I'm like, I don't know if that helps that much. I really don't. I don't know if more people need to be more aware of it, if that's actually helping the cause. And I know I always fucking trigger people when I say that, and I'm not saying that it isn't. I'm just saying that that's how my brain works. I go, well, if you got 1,000 people that weren't even thinking that, and now you make them aware of it, and they're not smart enough to do their own homework and research, then you automatically divide them on one side or the other. And we see this in politics all the time.
I could see some truth in that. Like, I could see how if you've never experienced something outwardly towards yourself, and now you're hearing about all the stuff that's happening all the time, you may be more so vigilant that you may see things that are happening that may not be happening. Or you may think, like the actor, that there's a lot of virtue in being a victim, and there's a lot of power in being a victim, and so you're actually going to go and make yourself a victim to get that attention, to get people to look at you.
Right, because at the end of the day, like his thought process is like, if I pull this off, like I'm going to be a hero, right? Because now I'm like stuffing this side, like it's going to put a big, massive black eye on their cause or whatever, along the right side, or the extremists on this end of it. But that. Then again, like once it gets foiled like that, now it looks like even worse. You just did more damage.
Especially when you look at things statistically that are potentially improving, but then when you bring more awareness to it, like it's not. Like if you look at something that we're like hate crimes, for example, like something that we're improving upon every single day, and then you all of a sudden start pointing out all the scenarios all over the country, like, oh, one happened over here and one happened over here, and then you make it sound like it's happening all the time, when in reality, if you compared it to 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years ago, it's been getting better, better, and better. And now you have people who have never been impacted by any sort of hate crime whatsoever talking about it and picketing about it and making a big deal about it. And it's just like,
no, there's some truth to that. Look, when there was an interesting study that I learned years ago. You guys remember the movie Jaws, right? Oh, so yeah. Jaws, for listeners, a movie about shark attack. It was got a lot of publicity. A lot of people. It was a horror film, and when that movie came out, the public perception of shark attacks went through the roof. Now, the reason why that happened was because people saw that movie. Newspapers started publishing when a shark attack would happen, and people started freaking out, and their perception
became hyper aware.
Yeah, and people thought, oh shit, shark attacks are going through the roof. The reality is shark attacks are extremely consistent all the time. There had been no changes, but people have perceived there to be so many more shark attacks because of the movie Jaws and because of the media then started to present to us. Because again, our brains evolved with limited communication. We evolved for most time in tribes. And so if you heard bad news, the odds were the bad news was from someone that you lived with, that was near you, that you knew, and it was important to know because someone got kidnapped and it happened in my tribe, and that means it's close by. So our brains have a tough time deciphering that versus someone got, we live in a country of 300 million people, a girl got kidnapped in Michigan. My brain's perceiving it as fuck. It's the same things if it's happened. Well, not to
mention that bringing awareness to it doesn't necessarily eliminate it. And I think that's the idea and what people are trying to do. Like, oh, let's make more people aware of it so we can eliminate. But the reality of it is, we'll never eliminate all of it. There'll always be hate. There'll always be racism. There'll always be sexism, and it's because of the way the brain operates. There's nothing that I can do about this person who lives all the way across the country who has met five people of a race, of a sex, of whatever, of any sort of creed that they've met, and their five encounters were bad for whatever reason. Bad luck, they were assholes, doesn't matter, but they had 5 bad. Now what's happened is they have now solidified that in their brain, and the way the brain operates is it predicts on past encounters that it's had. You can't eliminate that. You can become more aware of that as a person, like, hey, asshole, that's just because that's your experience. It doesn't mean it's experience for everybody else. But let's be honest, the IQ level of us as a nation, there's some people just are too stupid.
That takes all the work from the individual to
stupidity and bad and bad things that have happened to you in your life will result in potential hate and racism and sexism for the rest of your life.
Well, the best way to combat that is to have more experiences in the positive with that type of situation. So, which is why if you are in an area where you encounter more diversity and you have better outcomes because of that, you're less likely to stereotype people because, although I got attacked by 4 guys with, blue jeans on in the past, I've also met thousands of people with blue jeans on that are really cool with me or whatever because I live in a town that exposes me to that type of stuff. So that's one of the best things you could do.
But the fact is, though, that you can't stop the brain from still stereotyping. It'll still, until you outnumber that, right? Until you have more good experiences with blue jeans than with bad blue jeans, the brain will still go to the side that it knows.
Yeah, it's just natural.
It's just natural. Now it's up to us as good humans to behave accordingly afterwards and not react to that, not to go slap a person in blue jeans just because the 5 other times you've met somebody in blue jeans you've had a bad experience. It's just that you have to become aware of that, but you'll never change that. You can't change until you have more experiences that are positive to outweigh the negative.
Society's interesting that
Wrangler butts drive me nuts.
We can say what?
Sorry.
We can, we can, and we have done this, make some things less acceptable to say or less acceptable to do. There's certain words that were common, when we were kids that you don't really say today anymore. Does that really change the sentiment, or is it a reflection of a changing sentiment? Does that make sense? Like for example, there were derogatory terms when we were kids that were used that were meant homosexual, and we would say them, and we didn't say that because we meant someone was homosexual. It was just a word that we used, like the word gay, for example. When I was a kid, so guys and girls, everybody said if something was like, oh, those are gay shoes, like didn't mean that they were homosexual, just meant that your shoes were dumb or whatever. Today, that's a term that you don't really use anymore in that way because it's really, really frowned upon. I don't think that is what changed the sentiment. I think it's the sentiment that changed that. As homosexuality become more ingrained in normal society, as people became more accepting and tolerant, I think more and more people were like, it's probably not cool if we say that. So I think that the awareness itself might be more of a reflection of the sentiment. Does that make sense? Like we talk about sexist remarks. I think in the past, we would say things and get away with them. And today, I don't think it's necessarily that we're just trying to change the word to change the action. I think the actions are more frowned upon, and so it's the words that start to change to reflect that. In my opinion, I feel like that's why it moves in that direction. Although there are times when it's literally a political ploy, or it's something that they've designed to separate. For example, when I don't remember what year it was, maybe Doug can find out, when Jesse Jackson ran for president. But he was largely being credited as the one to get when you're talking about a black person is saying black, he got it that became a bad thing to say, and you had to say African American. He was one of the guys that kind of changed that. So it wasn't necessarily something that society changed. It was because he said it. So now everybody's going to start saying that when really doesn't today it doesn't. Either one, I guess, is okay.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. I think a lot of times these movements and the words and the things that we need to change and this awareness, I think it's more really a reflection of a changing attitude and sentiment. Oh, he was a presidential nomination in 1984 so I think it was 1984 that he might have done that. So anyway, interesting. Anyway, not to change the subject, but I want to mention Justin's beard is getting a little long now. Is this your first time? Is this the longest?
Newsworthy at this point, right?
Are you allowed to keep growing here? Because we've had this in the past where this gets ex-nayed.
I've figured that
ex-nay for the poo-nay.
Yeah, since I've been all herped out as of late,
Oh, wow.
I might as well hide it with my beard of shame.
Wow.
So
you're like, I'm not getting kisses anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I'll probably get back to the trimming now that everything's coming back to normal, and I got a nice haircut.
It doesn't look bad, dude, with your Viore clothes. You got the beard going on.
I feel kind of tough. I'm going to be honest. It's a good solid look.
You have a good beard line too.
Did you see? Speaking of Viore, did you see his cholo pants that they actually started making for him?
I like them,
dude. I'm so happy about it. I want more color options, Viore. Let's make this a thing. Like everybody else out there that grew up like me that wore the chinos, you had the flannel, like the Dickies. You had dude.
Isn't that what they're called?
This is coming back.
Aren't they called? What are they called?
They were called Dickies back in the day.
No. What are the Viore ones called?
Yeah, they're chino pants.
Chino.
Yeah.
They actually call them that.
They call them chino pants, which is great.
I should have got a pair of those because I got the other ones.
Well, they're flexible too, which is rad because now I can, it's not like, because the other ones were more like a really almost like the crease was all the way down, and it was like this paper, like real hard kind of material, but these are like real flexible and breathable. So
it has the look of like the Dickies, but not the. I used to wear Dickies way back in the days too.
Did you really?
Yeah. And I still got some in my drawers for sure. I have some Dickies shorts that I have. I still will pull those out every now and then. I like nothing like a pair of Dickies that have been broken in, but it takes like 4 years of washing.
Oh yeah,
because they're like
they don't
hard.
relax.
Yeah,
they're just like
so hard.
They're like plaster.
But once you've got about 100 washes in, and then they're all broken in, I love them.
So when I was in high school, the only people that wore Dickies were skaters
Yep.
or like if you were cholo, like cholos, skaters were the only people that would wear Dickies. Was it like that with you guys?
Well, yeah, and it's funny because I kind of posted some like picture of myself like skateboarding as like I was terrible at skateboard. I knew it, like it didn't last for very long, and so and people were calling me a poser and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I totally was a poser.
Bro, that was a good move you posted.
I was trying.
It looked you were way off your board.
Yeah, I ate shit quite a bit. Like asphalt. Like if you're a real skateboarder, you're gonna like get hurt a lot.
Now, were you made fun of because you wore a helmet? Because I know in those days nobody wore a helmet to skateboard.
Yeah.
And you had a big ass red.
I didn't even remember that. Like I was anti-helmet.
Like a moped helmet,
Bro, it looked like a Spaceballs. Remember Spaceballs? The big
like
black helmets they wore, bro?
It's like you just got off your moped.
Bro, it's like the Honda 90. Like my dad had one of those one of those motorcycles, like the Honda 90. It's like just like basically an upgrade from a moped. But I would ride that around the neighborhood and stuff.
So just for the audience, it's a super round, it's perfectly circular, like a big bubble
It's like
round.
cherry red.
And it was the kind of red that you see at the carnival on the carnival
or
cars.
the bowling ball.
I look like
a bowling ball.
I look like a candy apple.
Yeah, like what is that red? It's got like a weird
little metal flakes in it.
Yeah, like a weird shimmer to it. Looks like it's a deep. Like,
I think they call it candy apple red. Don't
candy
they?
apple red.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, I think they call it that.
It's hot rod paint.
Yeah.
And you were how old were you in the picture?
I was like 11, 12.
Okay, so you're 11 years old. Just to give it just a good example of the size of your noggin. You're 11 years old. You're wearing your dad's motorcycle helmet.
I had a dome, bro. Like forever.
Serious.
I feel bad for my mom.
Like a fucking bobblehead.
It fit perfectly.
I had a massive cabeza.
Your dad's like, here, use mine. It might be a little tight.
Yeah. I didn't have much hair either. Just all head.
I gotta go through some. I've got my 20-year reunion this year. And
Are you going?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Dude.
Good, you should.
Yeah, I plan on going.
Is it going to be at a barn?
I don't even know. Like
I know you went to
I
school.
just fuck
Because
off.
you have a milk churning party.
I just added myself to the reunion private Facebook group or whatever. So I don't think they have announced an official date. I think it's in September, but they don't have the actual date and location yet. I know they're starting to round up people donating food and drink and all this shit that's going to be there. So I have no idea what to expect. I've never been to a reunion. I didn't go to any other one. I didn't want to go to a 5 or a 10 or anything like that. But I thought 20 years is a long time, and there's quite a few people that I'm still friends with, and we just haven't got together in the last probably 5 years. So just going there for the excuse to connect with all of them, I think is going to be really cool. But I've got a whole...
Are there anybody in particular that you want to see? Like, was there like a hot girl that you just totally disconnected with and you just want to see what she looks like? Or?
No, that's going to sound narcissistic as fuck. How do I say that without sounding like an asshole?
I want to look.
He's like, I was the hot one.
No.
Everyone wants to see me.
I dated.
If you know what I'm saying.
I dated the hot chicks, right? So I still. I mean, I don't like talk to them, but I'm connected to them on Instagram, and most all of them are actually all married and 2, 3, 4 kids. Some of them 4 kids. So, and I see what they look like on Instagram. So I'm not.
So no surprises.
Yeah, there's nothing like that. I'm actually more excited about like there's a group of us about 20 deep that were really close in high school. We were all athletes, all basketball, soccer, and football players, and some of us, and I think some of us have all stayed connected to 3 or 4 of them really, really tight. Like within the group of 20. There's a bunch of like triplets, groups. And so there's like 3 or 4 of my buddies that I've stayed really, really close to that I still talk to on a regular basis. But all of us being back together, and I've got a picture. I'll try and remember to post it. I'm gonna dig out a bunch of old high school stuff since I have a bunch of photos from there, and I'll post some funny shit on my story. But there's a picture of us out in the quad at high school, and there's probably 30. And it's all of us friends and some of the cheerleaders, and they're all there together. And so I would love to like reenact that picture. Like it's because we were all so close in high school, and I think a lot of those people will still be back. So I'm excited about that.
Reunions, it's funny. You just highlighted something like because of social media, what people look like and what they're doing nowadays, if you really want to know.
Yeah, a little less.
It wasn't like that before where you
you're
literally
right.
were surprised.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was like a total shock. I went to my 10 year and like social media wasn't quite as, predominant as it is now. And so, yeah, that definitely, I had some of that. I had like kind of kept up a little bit on, some of my more like close friends and some people I knew that were still in the area. But there were some people that came from New York, from Europe, and, I hadn't seen them literally since probably, like senior year in high school, and it was a shock. And it's great though. I mean, sometimes it's a shock that's good. Like I saw this one girl that she had a transformation that was just stunning, and I had to compliment her, and it's like, wow, like I've you look great, and there's stuff like that. But for the most part, it was pretty depressing. Like you just see people and you're like, okay, oh man.
I'm curious to let
yourself go.
What everybody's doing work wise, like, so I can see on Instagram like what you look like, but I'm curious like where everybody is at in their lives, like what avenues do they pursue? Because I remember all their personalities in high school, and so it'll be interesting to see which direction they all went.
Interesting.
I want to see it. It's fun to see people that are killing it in like directions and
that you would have never guessed.
Yeah, professions that you're like, oh wow, I didn't even know you were like that smart or like crazy, in that direction.
I found that I noticed that even well before the 20, like round 5 and 10, even the most popular athletes, kids and girls, everything flipped. So
they peaked in high school.
Yeah, right, exactly. They peaked kind of in high school, and the ones that ended up blossoming into this like the gorgeous girl was the girl who sat in the back of the class and you never talked to her. She had glasses on, her hair in pigtails and shit like that, and you didn't pay no attention to her. And then like when she hit 25, she like blossomed into this dime piece. Like, so I saw a lot of that happen afterwards. And then like a lot of the badass, quarterback or stud player that was, the prom king or whatever like that. He, those guys ended up getting sloppy.
Straight up Uncle Rico.
Yeah, sloppy as fuck and working at some whatever.
It's at the front desk at Ace Hardware.
Yeah. So it's pretty interesting to see that. I mean, I think that's like the best advice I have for like young kids. I don't know how many we have that actually listen to us that are in high school. Is like, man, I would not worry.
That is not the end.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. I would not worry about where my place was at in high school, because so much changes later on. And the kids that actually buckled down and probably worked hard at school and got into a good college and then kept going in that direction, most of the one you paid no attention to, are doing big things now in their 30s.
I wonder
40s.
how many people go to that who are recently, because this is your 20 year, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder how many recently divorced people are going there and like, I hope I meet I wonder if Johnny
like they're trying to hook up.
Yeah.
So I definitely know quite a few people that we had just in our own little group, quite a few people that got married or had kids really quick, 20 to 25 range. And I remember thinking like, damn, they're already settling down. Most all of them that did that early are on marriage too and on new kids. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of them are already divorced and remarried.
Rolling up in a minivan.
Yeah. We'll see how many minivans in the parking lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Eagle has landed.
Today's squad is brought to you by MAPS Anabolic. If you're looking to maximize your overall muscle and strength, MAPS Anabolic is the perfect place to start. With a full 30-day money-back guarantee, there is absolutely zero risk. So what are you waiting for? Go to mindpumpmedia.com and get started today.
It's the motherfucking quad.
Eagle has landed.
First question is from R2 Herzog. How much time have you guys spent doing CrossFit? You don't seem to like it, but most of your comments sound like most of the naysayers who haven't actually done it.
Yeah, well, I haven't shot myself in the
Haters
face
gonna
either,
hate.
but I know what that's going to feel like.
Yeah.
I'll speak for
Slam
myself
my
personally.
dick in a drawer.
Yeah, you've never done that, right? How do you know you don't like it?
I don't know. I might.
I'll speak just for myself. I have a lot of experience in the fitness industry. I have a lot of experience training everyday people, okay? So I'm not talking about myself in terms of how I would like it or I wouldn't like it. I'm talking about in terms of how the CrossFit style of programming, especially in the earlier days, how that would apply to the average person. And I don't need to try it. I can see it. I can look at it. I know what their main goals are with it. I see how they inject exercises into circuits that should never be in circuits. I see how it's a intensity at all cost focused type of mentality in a lot of these boxes, especially early on. And I see that it's just not good. It's not good. It's going to promote a lot of overtraining, overwork. It's going to, the injury rate will probably be high, and their exercise programming isn't that great. So I really don't need to fucking try it. I'm kind of an expert in fitness. Really, that's the only area that I would say I have an opinion on everything, but the one area I could say pretty confidently that I feel, like I have a decent amount of authority is in exercise and workout programming. I've been training people for a long time, so I don't need to do a bunch of it to do
I
that.
did it long before it was cool. I remember when we were doing it over at my gym. I remember when I introduced it to Justin. It was fucking 12 years ago. It was a long time ago when we did it, before it was popular and it was underground. And there
It was just up in Santa Cruz.
Yeah, no, it was a very, very small thing. And I remember when I caught wind of it, and a couple of us decided to start running some of the routines.
I was the original frowning, right?
Yeah.
I was before him or whatever.
So, I was. Here's the thing: if you do it and you like it and it works for you, do it. I'm cool. It's a sport, though. It's not a training modality, and they've done a really good job of trying to present it to the masses. And it just doesn't belong there. No different than any other sport belongs as the main modality of getting the average person in shape. So I would never tell somebody, all the clients, not a single one of them I've ever trained, would I say, hey, CrossFit is good for you. Now, if someone came to me and they're like, Adam, I don't have specific goals. I want to be healthy. I love this sport CrossFit they're doing. I enjoy it. I'm having a great time with it, and I'm staying in great shape. It keeps me in check. I love the community. I love this. Do you think it's bad that I'm doing it? I would say no. Great. Keep doing it. If it's keeping you where you want to be, you enjoy doing it, there's nothing wrong with it for that. But you got to understand where we come from. And I apologize for the audience that's heard us talk about CrossFit fucking so many times. I mean, obviously this is somebody who's just tuning into the show and hearing a few things that we've said about it, but we've gone very deep on why all of us don't like CrossFit. And it's not that we don't like CrossFit, it's like I don't like soccer. I think it has a place here. I think it's a great sport. It's fun to watch. It's competitive. But I don't think that it is ideal for more than 80 to 90% of the population that's trying to get in shape. That's all. It's for the people that love the sport of it, have good mechanics, can train well.
It's not a healthy practice.
No.
You can't argue that to me.
No.
It's not. And so for me too, and I have to be somewhat objective because I've given it the most criticism, and mainly because growing up in sports and recognizing exactly what it is. So for me, bashing my head against other helmets, in a game setting where I really enjoy that. I love tackling people and I love hitting people as hard as I can, but I also recognize that's not really that healthy for my body. And it's something that I enjoy, and I look forward to it. And I trained to lead into a game to where that was something that I knew I was testing my body on all kinds of different levels, but it was damaging to my body at the same time, and I knew that. People don't think of CrossFit like that, and that's what irritates me.
Well, it's also counter the message that I had at this point in my career I had figured out was not the right message for most people. It feeds into the no days off, balls out, go to failure type of mentality, and that's not ideal for most people. And the people that it tends to attract are the competitive-minded type A type of personality. And what it took me years and years of putting this together is those people are the worst people to be doing that type of training. They have so much stress in their life. They got so much broken. Their mechanics are so broken down. So training Olympic lifts and training at high intensity is not ideal for that person. That person has so much to fix, not just in the way they move, but then also in the rest of their life, their stress and their sleep and promoting this competitive environment for working out is just not ideal for most people. That's all it is. And if you're somebody who's listening and it's ideal for you, then that's awesome.
That's
good. Keep doing it.
When you're doing exercises, form makes a big difference. And different exercises, it makes a bigger difference than other exercises. And with some movements, form is extremely important. Extremely important. For example, a barbell squat, it's more important to have really, really good form with a barbell squat than it would with a barbell curl. You're going to get more out of good form with a squat, and the risk of injury is much higher if your form is kind of off. And Olympic lifts are at the pinnacle of that. Olympic lifts, there's a very thin line between safe and unsafe with Olympic lifts. So if your form is perfect, they're safe. You got good mobility, good control, good stability, safe movements. But the second your form deviates just a little bit, those exercises very quickly become quite dangerous. And they're the movements at the very top of the list of that, high risk with slight deviation in form. They're just at the top. And the worst thing you could do with movements like that is take people who are everyday people and tell them, hey, practice this exercise without giving them a long time of prepping and training and mobility work leading up to it. And 2, making them do it for speed and time. That's a guaranteed way to make your form go out the window. Like, look, I don't care what you do. Think of something that you do very well. So, I don't know. Let's say you do... I don't care. Let's say you're really good at crocheting and you crochet the greatest blankets ever and you got really good technique. If I timed you and made you do it really fast, your skill level or your technique would actually diminish. Anything you do for time and speed diminishes. Now let's throw fatigue on top of it. So not only are you doing it for speed and time, but now you're doing it to fatigue, and when you get tired, good luck trying to maintain anything that's, any semblance of good form. And so that's just the mix. That's the mix that CrossFit puts together with a lot of their workouts and WODs is speed, time, count how many reps you could do, let's throw fatigue at it. Oh, and we're not going to eliminate exercises that are extremely dangerous when form is deviated a little bit. Actually, in fact, we're going to make that the cornerstone of these workouts. It's a bad combination. Now, if for a sport, it's awesome because it's challenging, it's different, it's competitive. But as a workout, terrible. It's a terrible workout. It's a terrible design.
It's really just like crocheting, except you're stabbing yourself with those needles.
Next question is from Andreas I am. Is there a practical reason powerlifters tend to be higher in body fat?
Yeah. Long rest periods. Long rest periods, low reps.
No, when is there a practical reason? Meaning, is there a benefit? Like, are they benefiting from having higher body fat?
In terms of just like having more mass to throw around?
Yeah, I mean, the two things I can think of are a calorie surplus.
Energy stores
makes you stronger typically. So if you're in a calorie surplus versus in calorie maintenance versus calorie deficit, you're gonna be stronger. Your body's got more energy to expend. It tends to, not always, as you get really fat, this actually messes up your hormones, but up to a certain level, probably will improve anabolic hormones. Central nervous system output is probably going to be higher. Leverage can benefit being heavier on certain lifts, like squatting. As your midsection gets bigger, especially if you wear a weight belt, you tend to feel more stable when you squat really heavy versus when you have a really small, tight waist. It just doesn't feel as stable. Deadlifting, it does kind of hurt though. Bench pressing, it helps to be bigger and heavier, so it improves your leverage there. And the other thing is this: powerlifters just don't have to look any particular way. So I think I want to get stronger. Nobody gives a shit how I look.
Right.
It kind of feeds into the excuse of like, well, I guess I'm just gonna eat as much as I possibly can and just push. Even if I only gain 1 pound on my lift, but I gain 10 pounds on the scale,
right? It
doesn't matter. So I think that's where a lot of that comes from.
No, I agree. But I think that pound for pound, when you look at some of the strongest guys and girls, I think like a good example of someone who does it better or right is Ben Pollock. Like there's an example of somebody who doesn't carry his body fat really, so he carries it. He's lean pretty much year round. He lets himself eat a surplus when he needs it to promote better lifts, but he doesn't carry a bunch of extra body fat. I think it can hinder you if you were to carry too much. I think to your point, Sal, it's more so that it doesn't matter, right? If you come to a show and you're squatting or deadlifting, it doesn't matter if you're 15% body fat or 30% body fat. It's just, can you get the bar up? And
the other thing too is the weight classes. So in the weight classes in powerlifting, they give you a little bit of a range. I don't know what the range is, but it's something like, I think it's like 15, 20 pounds, maybe a little less. And so let's say I'm making up these are not the actual weight classes, but let's say I'm entering into a competition where the two weight classes are up to 180 or up to 195, and I'm in between them kind of. It might be beneficial for me to go ahead and push my weight and be at the heaviest at the higher weight class than to have to try and cut to make it to the lower weight class, just from a strength perspective. And what a smart lifter will do is they weigh that all out. So they'll look at, okay, how much do lifters lift in this weight class? Am I better off trying to push into that and gain weight into it? Or am I better off cutting myself down and being lighter, but in competing with people who are lighter? So these are all things that we, but there's a stereotype, right? That powerlifters are fat. Mm-hmm. They just want to be strong. They don't need to be agile. So
yeah, I think it's really more about that, about eliminating a variable that you really have to pay a lot of attention to and like time and commitment towards. And so I think that the focus being around mainly their mechanics, their lifts, their practicing the movements, and just eating for fueling their energy, and so like feeling out their energy. I don't think they put like too many parameters around like staying lean, but then also like fueling themselves properly, going into like performing at their optimal amount, like through nutrition. I just don't think the nutrition piece is highlighted very often. They don't
Powerlifters do not focus on nutrition, not even in the same universe in terms of how bodybuilders do. Right?
They probably even focus more on like smelling salts than they do nutrition.
It's about they'll look at their grams of protein, they'll look at calories. I need more calories. They'll look at their weight, but they're not sitting there and scrutinizing every single thing they put in their mouth.
For the most part,
yeah.
general.
There's exceptions to the rule,
like
generalization.
A Ben Polk is an exception to that. I mean, he carries his food around just like a bodybuilder and weighs and measures everything.
Which I think to that point, they could do a bit. Like it could benefit them if they really did like highlight that as another variable.
This is why it's great for strength athletes to cross pollinate.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of things that we talk about all the time. How much bodybuilders can learn.
There's a lot you can learn. Absolutely.
I think powerlifters can also learn a few things from bodybuilders. What I've been noticing, I don't know if you guys have noticed this recently, but there seems to be a growing trend of girls entering into powerlifting. Like for a while there, it was bikini and whatever.
That too, yeah.
Now girls are entering into powerlifting. How do you guys feel about that?
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. I think that we're getting rid of this idea that weights make you bulky and look like a man. And I think more and more girls are becoming aware of the benefits of lifting heavy ass weight when it comes to building and sculpting the body. And then also being comfortable and okay with like owning what your body looks like and being proud of being a strong woman. And you don't have to be this skinny looking anorexic model on a cover of a magazine. And so I think that's also becoming more popular. So I think the combination of those things is what's driving that.
It's just another like awesome, empowering tool. It's something that like I think it's great women learn like some of those techniques, and that they're more capable than they probably realize. To lift heavy weights.
I think it's one of the most attractive things in the gym is to see a woman lift heavy ass deadlift or a squat. With good mechanics. I always get my attention.
I think it's
rarely ever will I not walk over and say something if I see a girl that's pulling really good weight or squatting and with really good mechanics.
Oh, it's awesome. I think it's a great thing because I think powerlifting changes the focus from what a lot of the female. Well, the reason why a lot of women get into working out and men is to change how they look. But a lot of the common sports that they'll enter that revolve weight training are, like bikini and stuff like that, which makes you focus heavily on how you look, and you got to look a certain way and be certain leanness or whatever. Powerlifting is awesome because it takes the focus off that, and it's all about how much you can lift, which means you got to eat more. You can't starve yourself. You got to feed yourself more.
Well, I think it's cool. Like, also, like why I think we highlight different attributes and different pursuits a lot with our MAPS programs and things. Why we want people to try these other avenues out is because it carries over into if I do want to look more aesthetically pleasing, like that still will help aid in building a stronger base to build off.
Well, I was talking to somebody on Instagram a while ago, and she was asking about what if I thought it was a good idea that she competes in bikini but then also competes in powerlifting, and not at the same exact time, but she'll do bikini. And I thought it was a great idea. I thought to myself, like, what a great if you're competitive minded and you need to sign up for something to have that goal or whatever, what a great way to kind of negate the potential negative effects from bikini competition. Like, what a great way to learn how to reverse diet, focus on strength, rebuild your metabolism by doing a powerlifting show in between bikini competitions. And it'll benefit the bikini competitions because now you're going in with more muscle, faster metabolism. You're not sitting there, I think now, of course, it could go negative. You could do the whole binge and cut type of thing, but I thought it was I think it's a good thing. I'm really excited.
It's a great thing. I actually know two girls that I was actually just trying to look up their Instagram so I could share it. Amanda Chu is her name, and she's a pro bikini athlete, and she also competes in powerlifting. And then the other one was Tina Trong. I knew both of them. They were competing the same time I was. I believe Amanda still competes, but not Tina. But they both had incredible bodies, incredible physiques, and they would powerlift. They would flip flop back and forth. So they would train for a bikini show, then they'd do a powerlifting.
Yeah, don't you feel like that will keep you help mitigate the negatives that come from just bikini?
Well, not only that, it just helped. The problem with bodybuilders, and that's including bikini athletes. So the problem with bikini athletes and bodybuilders, for sure, they're listening to this. It is very, very rare I see them lifting singles, doubles, and triples. You just don't see it. Still,
they just don't train for that kind of performance.
They just don't train. They just have decided in their head that that's more in the powerlifting area. It doesn't benefit me as much as training in the 6 to 8 rep range, or 8 to 12, or 12-15, or supersetting everything. So bodybuilders, including women's bikini athletes, all tend to weigh heavy on the high reps still and supersetting. And even if they listen to Mind Pump and they started to lift somewhat heavier weight, you still rarely see singles, doubles, and triples unless you're somebody who's getting training for powerlifting. And so I think that that's the real benefit is if you do something like that, if you're following a Jordan Shallow or a Ben Pollock's program for getting ready for a competitive powerlifting show, I mean, man, the amount of muscle that you're going to build during that time, especially if you come from the bodybuilding world, I think it'll blow most men and women away.
Well, you'll find that the comments we get, the most positive comments from people who do MAPS Anabolic are these competitors who never train in that phase 1 style training.
Yeah.
And they're all blown away by it.
The thing. I mean, we talked, those that have been listening since day one know that I shared this on the show. It was a game changer for me. Because I was the reason why I speak so passionately about it is I fell right in the camp too. I was the same way. A low reps for me meant 5 or 6 reps. Like that's the bottom. Like and that was rare that I would even do that. So when I really got into trying to increase my deadlift, my squat, and I wasn't so focused on how I looked, as a byproduct, I ended up building this impressive back that I'd worked so hard for so many years doing all these isolation moves and doing all these 8 to 15 to 20 reps. And man, dropping down to single heavy deads and squats.
It's also the psychology change is, I think, the big thing. Like if your focus is aesthetic and then you move to a performance-based focus, I think that can facilitate more of a healthy outlook on exercise. You know what I'm saying? Because now your eyes are off of the aesthetics and you're really just focused on performance.
You're not identifying with one or the other. I 100% agree with it. I love that. And I love bouncing around like that. And I highly encourage anybody listening to the show that if you've ran one of our programs, don't just stick to that one program. Yeah. The whole reason why we created all the different ones, especially the red, the green, the black, like that's, to me, I think everybody should at least rotate through those and then whatever you do from there. But there's so much benefit and carryover that come from those different programs.
Next question is from Clay B. Williams. As a student, I spend a lot of time sitting down. What are some everyday things I can do to minimize the negative effects?
So this is crazy. I'll tell you guys an interesting story. I had a client early on in my career old lady who hired me. So I think she was in her 70s. This was early on in my career. And she comes in and her daughter hired me to train her. And one of the things her daughter wanted me to do was to alleviate some of her back and neck pain. And she had and you don't see this as much today as maybe you saw a long time ago, but she had a hump on her back. Have you ever seen an old person with like a legit hump in their back? And I didn't realize that a lot of that had become permanent. What happens over time with some of these humps is because of osteoporosis, it's like microfractures develop and it almost heals in this stuck, kind of position. And you can correct some of it through exercise and strengthening muscles, but some of it kind of becomes permanent. And that was the first time I realized that your body just over time starts to mold itself after what positions it's in most often. Mm-hmm. So now how does this apply to what we're talking about? Well, today in modern societies, the thing that we are doing most often by far physically is sitting. And so we're in this, think of the sitting position, right? Don't even think about a perfect sitting position. Nobody ever sits like super like they're in the military. It's usually this kind of slouch position. Hip flexors are shortened. Hamstrings are shortened. Core is completely disengaged. There's no need for your core to be engaged when you're sitting up, except for maybe when you're yelling for someone to grab you a sandwich or something like that. So you're sitting in this position. Your body's literally molding itself to that position. And so the number one most important everyday thing you could do to minimize the negative effects of sitting is to sit less.
Yeah, walk.
That's really at the end of the day, that would be number one is, okay, what can I do? What exercise do, what offside or whatever. We can get into that. But before you get into that, the first thing you could do is literally just
start minimizing your sitting.
That's it. Just sit less. So if you're working at a desk, if you have the opportunity to stand, then do that. If you have the opportunity to sit on a physio ball and kind of move your hips around while you're working, do that. If you can get on your knees and kneel on something and work on your computer, do that. Like try doing different things that are different from the sitting, because that is the thing that you're doing most of the time, and your body is starting to shape and mold itself.
Well, I like that you said that, though, because there's always people that you're going to find that are going to give you little tips and tricks and little hacks to like stretch certain muscle groups. But like if you're predominantly sitting, like that's what your body, you're just going to keep telling your body that's the priority, and it's going to overcome whatever little stretch you're going to interrupt it with. So that you have to just keep that in mind, that's that if it's the majority of your day, like this is something that your body's going to sort of form into. So now you definitely want to break that up, and don't get me wrong, it is valuable, but to combat that is going to be tough, to where we need to implement a proper strength program on top of that to be able to get your body to respond and not form into these positions.
So the biggest game changer for me, and I think I just talked about this on the podcast the other day, was getting to the point, which took a lot of work, a lot of stuff that's in Prime and Prime Pro, a lot of 90-90s, a lot of combat stretches, a lot of Zone 1 test in Prime, and handcuff with rotation and thread the needles, and I've worked my ass off on my ankle mobility first, then my hip mobility, and recently my thoracic mobility. And since then, I can now sit in this deep squat all the way down where I'm actually at rest. And for the first time in my life, I've never been that comfortable in that deep of a squat. And what I have found is I've completely eliminated any of the low back pain. I've eliminated the bursitis in my hips. I don't have achy knees like I used to. I have way more of ankle mobility than I've ever had. And so now that I've done all the work and then I put it in to Sal and Justin's point about just like trying not to sit anymore, like, yeah, I try my best. But then there's, you sit at a desk or you sit on a podcast, or we can't get away from that. But what I've done now that I never used to do, and for me, these are my habits because I have dogs and things like that. Very first thing I always do when I come into my house, my dogs always greet me, and I immediately drop down into that baby or the squatted position where I'm ass to grass, and I'm comfortable there. And so I'll sit there and I'll rub on the dogs and I'll play with them and I'll talk to them, and I'll do that in that position because I've become so comfortable with it. So now I've just made a habit of doing that as regular and as often as I possibly can throughout the day. Katrina and I could be watching TV and talking, and I'll slide off the couch real quick and I'll get down in that squatted position and I'll sit there for a little bit. I'll text and go through my DMs and I'll sit in that position. And I've just gotten myself really comfortable with being all the way in that position. Now, what's great about that is I'm not walking, I'm not exercising, I'm not doing something that like really takes a lot of effort, but I'm putting myself in a position that really promotes good ankle mobility, good hip health, and then also good thoracic mobility. And now that I've put all the work to get there, now as long as I just kind of incorporate that in my life, I've found that I'm doing 80% less mobility work than I was doing just a year ago. But it took a ton to get to where I'm at. Now I just got to make sure I do those little things. And I just recently posted on my Instagram, I was showing me doing the overhead squat. And it's challenging. That's challenging for me to do it, but I couldn't even do that before. And now, like, that's going to be something that I kind of regularly do into my routine, not because I'm trying to do CrossFit, not because I care about getting super strong there. I just want to promote the good mobility in those 3 areas that I've put a lot of work in. And so if you're somebody who is concerned about this and you too already maybe have low back pain or are battling these issues, put the work in. This is exactly why Prime and Prime Pro were created. And you know what? It's not going to be a week. It's not going to be a couple months. Like, it's going to take a long time. It took me a long fucking time of being very consistent with it. But where I'm at now is a very exciting place because I don't have to put all the work in. I just now I have to have these just little habits that I do. And as long as I am aware of that and I keep those good habits, I think overall, like, I'm going to have combated a lot of the issues I would have had.
Yeah, as far as things like creating these rituals and these sort of priming, like first thing when I get up, like to kind of speak upon that, like for myself, I'm driving all the time and I'm experiencing pain as a result of this repetitive pattern that I've taught my body in terms of this external rotation of my foot, and then I'm constantly going through that plantar flexion and that dorsiflexion, and I'm squeezing and constantly going through this repetitive motion, which is affecting my quad, and I'm getting this this pain that accumulates, and it actually trickles down now into my leg. And so anyway, I'm trying to address this first thing in the morning. I'm trying to get internal rotation of the hip, and I'm trying to prime that as much as possible. I'm trying to get my hips in a better position, and then I go onto my drive, which takes up about, I want to say like maybe 2.5, maybe 3 hours of my day, where it's like I'm in this gridlock of like constantly going through this repetitive motion. And so I've been really adamant about like at work, or like before then I get back in my car, and then when I get home, like I apply this same ritual that helps to counter that same, because I know I'm going to have to do those movements anyways. So if I know I have to sit all the time, I'm going to ritualize every moment I have the rest of the day to get in like hip extension, to get in this standing, like open, tall position, like upright posture. So those moments and those opportunities, I highly suggest it just becomes the other part of your day as much as possible.
Well, you definitely don't want to wait until you hurt, but when your body starts to hurt, it's already down. It's already pretty far down the path. And if you keep waiting, then you start to develop injury. You want to stop before you get to the point where you have pain. Here, I used to recommend this to some of my clients who would have issues sitting down. And it's not much, but it actually adds up to quite a bit. And I would tell them, every hour you're at your desk, spend 5 minutes doing some stretches and exercises. That's it. So every hour you set your alarm goes off, you stand up, do some stretches, squat down, do some band exercises, time yourself for 5 minutes. It doesn't take much. You waste way more time than that by answering your friends on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. Then sit down and see what happens. The clients that did it, because the problem is, of course, people have to do it, but the clients that did it got great results. They got leaner, and part of the reason why they got leaner is if you think about it, 5 minutes, that's nothing. Well, if you're at your desk for 6 hours, that's 30 minutes of exercise. That's 30 minutes of exercise that you did spread out 5 minutes every hour. So people will get leaner. The other thing was, of course, people felt like they had less pain. They felt better. And then the third one, which was unexpected, was my clients would tell me that they had better focus and they were more productive. And we now know why. I mean, when you move, you increase BDNF in the brain and blood flow to the brain. It shows people show cognitive improvements when they get up and move in between taking tests or answering questions on tests. I found this for myself when I developed MAPS Anabolic and did the trigger sessions, where after a trigger session, I just felt like I had a small jolt of caffeine or something. It kind of woke me up. So, I mean, you could do that too. You're at your desk every hour, 5 minutes, time yourself, and just do some light stretches, some light movements at your desk, squat down, pull the band, do some band pull-aparts, whatever. You don't even have to be super specific. I mean, you could do MAPS Prime Pro stuff and get real specific, or you could just move around and do what kind of feels good. Not nearly as effective, but way better than what you're doing now, and then see what happens.
Next question is Elijah Liu. How do you build confidence in yourself as a trainer besides just getting more experience?
Stay in your lane. One of the
Good answer.
Yeah, one of the best things you could do, or one of the worst things you could do as a new trainer, I should say, is going off and talking about or teaching things that you don't feel fully confident in. First off, you run the risk of saying the wrong thing or teaching someone the wrong thing, which is embarrassing and will reduce your value to your client. And the second thing is when you tend to do that, and you don't feel confident. And so when you're teaching things that you're not versed in, it comes across. Mm-hmm. And so I would get, this is something I would address all the time with new trainers. They'd come to me like, hey, look, I'm a new trainer. I just got certified. I got these clients. I'm a little nervous. And I'd say, okay, stick to what you know and what you're confident in. If all you're confident in is traditional resistance training exercises and some stretches, then stick with that. It's going to benefit your client tremendously, and it's way more than they know. That's why they're hiring you. They don't even know what what exercises to do. You at least know that, so do that. And then, of course, the second thing, which they mentioned to build confidence, is experience. The better you do, the longer you train people, the more you learn, the more you see what works as you apply it, the more confident you become, and then the wider your scope becomes. But initially, when you first get started and you have no experience, do what you know and don't do anything else.
Yeah, I mean, the days of fake it till you make it people are done. Like, I don't see that being a valid option anymore anyways. And I knew some guys like that. Like, when I was first getting started, I could see the level of price points they would present. The obviously the confidence was there, but it was not backed by true experience. And, that came through to me, but not everybody picked up on that. And so there was a lot of that could get, they could get away with it more because it wasn't as accessible on the phone, this information that wasn't as readily available like it is today. So just don't get caught up in that trap of trying to wow and impress, your client. Like, I think that's great advice, that Sal gave in terms of just knowing what you know best. Like, if you lead with, I want to help you and I'm passionate about wanting to get you what you're here for, and like I will, if I don't know something, I will ask somebody, I will get some help and bring that in and be sort of like that vehicle to provide that to you. But I'm going to speak upon what I know, and I'm going to help you to guide you in that direction. And it's as simple as that. People really appreciate that, just the passion behind it.
I've talked about this on the show before because when I started, I didn't know anything. And this was a common question that trainers that I hired would ask me when they'd sit down. And I know when it would come time to, okay, we're starting work. You're now officially a trainer. Get out there and start training clients. And there's this huge fear of, oh my God, what am I going to do if I get a doctor who knows so much more than me, or what am I going to do this? And like, they're just so insecure about their knowledge. And first of all, including doctors, 80 to 90% of the people that you're going to deal with, you probably just your one national certification and your little bit of experience, you already probably know more than most of them in what you're about to do, which is training clients how to work out and to eat better. So that's the first thing, is to just know that you're probably way further ahead than you think you are. And then I would pick one thing. So for me, it was the transverse abdominis, the core. Like that was just like mind blowing to me when I was a new trainer. I didn't know, up until being a trainer, I did not know what the core was. I didn't know what it was responsible for. I didn't realize how important it was. And I had this whole spiel. I used to tell people that the most important muscle in your body besides your heart, because without your heart you're dead, is your core. And your core is made up of 28 different muscles that surround your spine and support it. And most people, one, don't even know about it, and two, they don't know how to activate it and work it. So I'm going to teach you about that.
It's so funny you still have that memorized.
I do. It's just like, that just shows you how many times I said it as a young trainer, because it's all I knew.
Yeah.
I was fascinated by the information that I had learned. I was continuing to learn more and more. I found ways to incorporate it into the training and then in my sales presentation when I would present to them. And what was great was almost always, especially back then, because obviously core is a little more popular now, but back then they were just like, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was that important. And no, I don't know what my core is or how to activate it or, do the drawing maneuvers. I was just fascinated by that little bit of information because it was more than I had before that. So find an area that you are interested in within training and dive deeper into it and go as far as you can and stick to teaching that. And I think most people will think, and hopefully it's something solid. I can give you some other ideas of like where I would go if I was a brand new trainer. There's a lot of common themes that we find when you start training lots of people. One of them being that almost everybody will have upper and lower cross syndrome, which is the rounding of the shoulders and the forward head, and then the sticking the butt out or the pelvic tilt. So
learn about that.
Literally do all the homework and research on why that is.
Desk and phone posture.
Like what muscles cause the body to be formed and shaped that way, which ones you do to address that and fix that. And like literally learn that inside and out, and that'll be like your ace in the hole always. You could be taking somebody who's been training their whole life and working out and know all the gym and all the machine equipments, and they've dieted for a competitive show, and so they know diet really well. But I bet you could school the shit out of them on upper cross syndrome or lower cross syndrome and what causes that, and show them that they suffer from that, and then how to correct that inside the gym. And if you don't have that knowledge, like again, this is another shameless plug for the same programs. This is what Prime and Prime Pro was all about. Prime and Prime Pro, the reason why we created those programs is we know that like of all the things that I taught people, that was like the first thing was to assess them, to assess their movement, to see where there was breakdown, and then to teach them why there was breakdown, and then to give them exercises to fix that. That is like the magic recipe for almost everybody. Who cares what their goal is? Fat loss, build muscle, jump higher. That's all. And yeah, we can do that. We can get better at that. You'll get experience, and sure, that might be their initial goal, but everybody needs help with overall posture. So teach them that.
I once had a trainer who, she was a yoga instructor. She'd been doing yoga for a long time and had only done resistance training for a short period of time. I think it was like a year of resistance training, but years of yoga. She went and got a national certification and then became a trainer, and she was really worried about it. She was really insecure about her knowledge about resistance training. And I remember she came to me and she's like, I don't have the confidence. Like, what do I do? And I said, look, stick to what you know really well. Like, yoga really well, right? And you know a little bit of resistance training. Incorporate your yoga into training all these different people. Just make sure it's appropriate. And that's what she did. And you know what? She got a lot of clients because of it, because it was different and because she was training in an area that she was confident in. And of course, over time, she was able to learn more about resistance training and correctional exercise. But at the end of the day, stick to what you know. Don't pretend like you know more than you do. And then as you do this over time, experience is the best confidence builder that there is out there. And with that, look, if you go to mindpumpfree.com, you can download any of our guides for free. We got a ton on there for free, so go check them out. Also, if you want to learn more about us, your hosts, we have our own personal social media pages on Instagram. You can learn more about Justin at MindPumpJustin. You can learn more about me at MindPumpSal, and Adam, MindPumpAdam.
Thank you for listening to Mind Pump. If your goal is to build and shape your body, dramatically improve your health and energy, and maximize your overall performance, check out our discounted RGB Super Bundle at mindpumpmedia.com. The RGB Super Bundle includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic. 9 months of phased expert exercise programming designed by Sal, Adam, and Justin to systematically transform the way your body looks, feels, and performs. With detailed workout blueprints and over 200 videos, the RGB Super Bundle is like having Sal, Adam, and Justin as your own personal trainers, but at a fraction of the price. The RGB Super Bundle has a full 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can get it now plus other valuable free resources at mindpumpmedia.com. If you enjoy this show, please share the love by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and by introducing Mind Pump to your friends and family. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is Mind Pump.